Morning, Karen. And I know Jackie's on her way. I was just texting with her and Sal. So we'll give everyone a couple minutes.
So,
Oh, good. So now I think Sal and Lori and Barb are together. Morning. Shouldn't you guys be wearing masks if you're going to be huddled up so close?
We carpool everywhere. We're safe.
Okay, your unit. We certainly have quorum and it's 9 o'clock. So will it be all right, staff, Kristen, CAO Helmer? Can I call this to order? Morning, Jackie. What a beautiful backdrop. Yes, okay. And I have to read the policy, so we'll get started with that. Call the meeting to order and recognize that collectively we are on the unceded territories of all of the First Nations within our regional boundaries. And for your information, we have in the Pemberton boardroom, Philippa. I think we have Philippa. I thought I saw Philippa. We certainly have Leanna, Steph, and I, Philippa. And the meeting is being live streamed, and if I understand it, there's also a ability for the public to attend in the SLRD boardroom in Pemberton. And what else? Still no Sal? A motion to approve the agenda, please. Moved by Director Weeb. Seconded by Director Rasmussen, alternate Director Rasmussen. Okay, thank you. Our first delegation is at 9:15, but at this, anyone opposed to approving the agenda? Agenda approved. And at this point, I believe I should read the statement from the new electronic meetings policy. Okay. This committee is being live streamed and recorded. Any comments made during this meeting will form part of the public record. Public viewing of the meeting is also available in the SLRD boardroom in Pemberton. It's being held virtually with some or all meeting participants attending via electronic or other communication facilities. Directors will be involved in and participate in the capital M meeting. Directors will identify themselves when advising the chair that they wish to be placed on the speakers list, and this will be done by raising their hands. I'm also really happy if you guys use the Zoom function of putting up the little hand, you have a better chance of me seeing you. The chair will record the order in which the hands are raised and will allow the directors to speak in the order in which they are recorded. If directors are unable to raise their hands due to being in audio mode, they will verbally advise the chair of their intention to speak. Yes, feel free to pipe up. Directors will mute their device unless they wish to speak. The chair or the corporate officer may also mute the microphones, and the directors may unmute the microphones on their own accord when required. With respect to a vote, directors are only required to state a nay vote. You don't have to state a yay vote. Directors attending the meeting are required to verbally advise the chair or the corporate officer if they leave the meeting and when they return to the meeting, so this can be recorded in the minutes. For clarity, if a director does not verbally advise the chair or the corporate officer, but is observed by the corporate officer to be absent from their video feed, and their video feed remains turned on and it is unclear to the corporate officer whether they are present in the meeting, the director will be marked absent from the meeting until such time as corporate officer observes that the director has reappeared in the video feed. Directors will text message the chief administrative officer, CAO, if they have a technical difficulty with their connection. Maybe on that note, Kristen could put her text message number in the chat. If directors are unable to text the CAO, the directors will email the CAO or the chair. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Chair. So today, if there are any concerns, people can text message myself. If I put that information in the chat, it will be visible to the public as well, which is why we only have direct messaging between people attending and the host or co-hosts. So if you do have any messages during this meeting, please just reach out to myself by clicking my name on the chat function, and I will be happy to provide a text number should that be required, or whatever other assistance or support you need. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, CAO Helmer. If a technical difficulty occurs resulting in the meeting not being projected on the wall display in the SLRD boardroom, the meeting will be recessed until the projection is reestablished. And finally, if a technical difficulty occurs and it becomes apparent that a director has become disconnected from the meeting and the meeting's quorum is not maintained, the meeting will be recessed until the director returns to the meeting. All right. So the first item on our agenda, number 3, is delegation scheduled for 9:15. So we're a little bit ahead. Do we have Kim North in the waiting room to talk about the Community Connect Innovation Hub?
Yes, Chair, we do. Would you like me to admit her early?
Yes. Is everybody good with that? Yes, please. Yeah, let's welcome Kim. And Kim has 20 minutes scheduled here, and her package is in your agenda package.
I have to talk to her.
Morning, Kim. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I didn't hear anyone until I heard you.
Welcome to our NEDIC meeting. Thank you for presenting today on the Community Connect Innovation Hub. You would know, does everyone know everyone on the call here? Leanna, do you know all the participants? I was thinking of you specifically. Leanna's our intern from NDIT. People will know Patricia, of course, and Philippa at this point. So have you got what you need? Has Philippa helping you share your screen, or are you just, how are you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good to go. We're good to go with the PowerPoint. But first of all, I'd just like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you from the Northern Statliam unceded territory, and I really am happy and honored to be able to work and live and connect with people here. And thank you for inviting me to present on the work taking place in regards to the Lillooet Community Connect Innovation Hub, a little bit of a big name. And this is a social enterprise where we are just doing it and trialing it out. And we were pretty impressed with the SLRD and the Northern Development Initiative Trust taking this on in that format. And I'd also like to thank the SLRD, both the staff and Vivian, for assisting and providing encouragement as we moved along. So this project has been 2 years in the making, if not more, with many input from a lot of non-for-profit societies, small businesses, and also all levels of government. And that helped define, a vision of us working together to create real sustainable change in the community, both in regards to the economic and social fabric of the community. So this PowerPoint, it might be a little bit long, so I'm going to kind of quickly go through the PowerPoint. It's pretty picture heavy, basically showing you what we've been doing over the past 6 months. So next slide. So as we know, Lillooet Learns has been bravely taken the lead on this project, and it fits within their mandate of providing lifelong learning opportunities in many forms. And taking on this social enterprise has been a big risk for them, but they have stepped up to the plate and are working with us to implement this social enterprise idea. Next page. And so what what our main idea is that we want to create strong cross-sector partnerships and mentorship programs that will move innovative ideas that are created by the community for the community, and to support those people, those change makers we're calling them, to put those ideas into action. By creating mentorship and entrepreneurship programs. Basically, I just believe that community economic development that is sustainable and has all those supports in place is what we need to become more self-sustaining and effective in our social mission, as well as becoming independent, hopefully eventually from granting agencies. I think we'll always be accessing grants, but hopefully that will decrease as we move forward with this social enterprise. Next slide. So this is, so basically this new logo that has been designed by some of the young people in Arts Lillooet and who are involved in the hub, and then put together by Darren Scotchman, a young Statliam artist. And basically what it's showing is that people working together, we're going to capture ideas and dreams, and then the wheel spokes kind of talk about putting them into action. So it's kind of a pretty awesome logo that people came up with. Okay, thank you. Next slide. And I just want to acknowledge the investors who helped get this project up off the ground. So basically the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District through the Northern Development Economic Development Capacity Fund provided $25,000, and Area B select funds have been targeted for specific things like 2,000 and 3,000 for specific things. Lillooet Tribal Council, the Indigenous Skills and Employment Training Program, we have over $40,000 going towards that, towards those 3 young girls you see in the next picture, are actually working with us as the hub ambassadors. We received Interior Savings Community Investment Fund of $15,000 to go towards equipment and supplies, and the District of Lillooet Community Fund and Facade Grant up to $5,500, and we're still working on that. We also have been really lucky to have private investors, the people that really like the idea of this project, and they have invested over $4,500 now. So thank you to all those people. Okay, for taking the risk. Okay, next slide. And so these are the financials up until 30th September, but I kind of have a bit of an update to just really show you how successful, like I was surprised when I did all the financials at the end of October. And basically the social enterprise has brought in, just in 2 months, we've really only been open since, towards the end of August, so September, October, and already the social enterprise has brought in $18,310. And so we've brought in that amount of money, but some of that is going back out to the artists and to the farmers through the sales that are happening at the hub. But still, that's $18,310 that's actually staying in our community. Well, hopefully most of it's staying in our community and circulating around. And many of those are new people that had never thought about participating in, the sale of their art in particular. So I think that's a pretty cool statistic just right there. We have actually surpassed the amount of money that we thought we would bring in for this project in the first year. I had kind of targeted 100,000, but we are already at $102,339. And we have spent 86,558 so far. So it kind of leaves us right now with a balance of 15,000. And we still are bringing in more rent and also more, Christmas is coming up. So I see that we will be bringing in some more funding for that. So we can skip these next 2 pages. I think I've done a little summary and we can talk a little bit more about that at the end. We've also had many, many, many in-kind volunteers and in-kind contributions that have been freely offered from this is a picture of the Lillooet Friendship Center helping us paint the upstairs. We've had volunteers changing up tiles, putting up art rails. Even the piano man came in and he charges $90 an hour. And while I was chatting with him with the about the hub, he said, "Oh no, I always charge." And then the next day he came in and tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "It was just too hard for me to make an invoice." So even that was, it's pretty amazing when people hear, what we're trying to achieve here. Next slide. So we did have our grand opening on the 23rd of September. We had, 3-day opening, which was very, very successful and well attended. And we had been open a soft opening a little bit before that. So, but really that shows us that, we've really only been open there 2 months, and to be able to achieve what we have, I think is pretty awesome. Next slide. And this just shows pictures of people, attending. We had music, we had the art show. We gave out food that was locally produced in little packages. And yeah, we had lots of good feedback. Next slide. So what is it all about? So these are kind of like a little summary. It is a big concept, but it basically comes down to connecting, convening and collaborating with people, co-sharing our resources so that we can bridge divides and build partnerships. And a big component of it is the mentorship and entrepreneurial program, where we want to support people in their lifelong learning and in creating new business. And basically we focused on developing and promoting what is local and unique about Lillooet. So breaking down barriers, growing impact. Next slide. And we decided to focus on what was kind of unique and kind of new and up and coming in Lillooet. So the Lillooet Grown, working with the Lillooet Agricultural Food Society, Lillooet Maids, we developed the Arts Lillooet Cooperative, Lillooet Places, which is around honoring the place that we live in with our First Nations neighbors, and showcasing the beauty of the area. And part of that is developing some more tourism opportunities as well. And then Lillooet People, of course, is our not-for-profit, small business and government connecting together and working together. Next slide. Okay, so Lillooet People, I have them in these 4 kind of sections just to show what we're doing. So supporting change makers, providing a dialogue space, community conversations, developing partnerships to increase our impact. And I'll just got some pictures here just to show some of the work we've done. I just met with the Miyazaki House Society yesterday, and that was a really great, another great meeting where we have come up with some steps to move forward. So next slide. We are going to continue with the restorative justice program, and it will be operating outside, inside the hub, upstairs. Next slide. Community conversations and dialogue spaces. So we already have a round dialogue table in the hub, and people basically come there and we meet around this table and have discussions. And those discussions don't always have to lead to action, but it's a way of connecting with each other, learning what those ideas are that people have, and then trying to work out how we can move forward. But it doesn't always mean that we have to have an action. It's like bringing people together. Community conversations, we have been doing those over the last couple of years, and the first one we held actually in the hub space was last week around truth and reconciliation, where we had 2 chiefs from the Statlim communities, Tehikit and Haklep, and that was very well received. And we are, there's a great article in the paper about it today or yesterday. Next slide. So this is just the Truth and Reconciliation workshop that we had on the left-hand side, the opening that we had, and also the hub is partnering with the Lillooet Friendship Centre for a Thursday morning drumming session at the museum park, and inviting people to come out and come together for that, and also to support the people that are spending a lot of time in the park. So next slide. So supporting the not-for-profit sector. So the big goal is to continue with the Lillooet Volunteer Connect program, but to build that. And so we are sharing space with the not-for-profit sector, sharing staff, sharing expertise together, equipment and resources, and then bringing people together to have a greater impact through partnerships. Next slide. I don't know where I'm at for time. And every Wednesday we still are doing the drop-in. So yesterday I had a drop-in with the Miyazaki people, and so putting ideas into action and developing those partnerships. Next slide. We also have been working with the Friendship Centre and the seniors to develop an Elder Connect program that is bringing more money into our community to support that effort. So we are now one of the members, I think the 85th member in BC of the BC Community Response Network. And we are still working with the United Way around the Better at Home program. And we have a cyber senior program. So the hub ambassadors are working with seniors to increase their connections in the community. Next slide. And again, keeping the Volunteer Connect program going. And so we're still doing the Shop Deliver program. We've been supporting the forestry and the evacuations and other organizations as we move along. Next slide. And this just shows some of that work that happened over the summer. Next slide. And we are trying to promote, we're working together with different organizations, the 100 People Who Care and the Lillooet Community Fund, and then coming up with other innovative ideas to raise funds for local not-for-profits so that they can create more impact in the community. So you'll be seeing a lot of this Plaid Friday coming up here in the next month around supporting shop local and donate local. Next slide. Okay, and this has been one of the most rewarding aspects of this program, is actually implementing this mentorship program. We have 3 hub ambassadors that we receive funding through Lillooet Tribal Council, and they have been assisting and learning as they go. And we have been connecting them with farmers and with artists and basically small business operators, and they're learning what it takes to have a business and to keep it running successfully. And it gives them an idea, you know, a way for them to explore different opportunities in their own life. And if they decide to, you know, run with something, there'll be supports there to help them, you know, start a small business or get employed and put them in the right avenues where they need to go. Okay, next slide. And so we're trying to combine resources. So right now around the economic development, the hub has been doing some work for the Lillooet and District Chamber of Commerce, also for the District of Lillooet's Economic Development Officer. We have connected with Mandy from the SLRD. She's been spending 1 day a month in the hub, meeting with people. We're working with Love Lillooet as well, and the online store Lillooet. And all of those are to really promote the buy local idea right now with Lillooet and Love Lillooet, with the upcoming Winter Festival on the 26th of November here. But working with the chamber to increase their membership and to just get more information out to their members. Yeah. And we were instrumental in helping the District of Lillooet get people filling out the economic surveys, talking to people, and we worked with Jackie also to get the ambassador program up and running. We have the Chamber of Commerce 2 e-bikes, and we went out into the community a little bit before it got cold, and kind of met with locals and visitors in the community to promote Lillooet. And this Lillooet online store is going to be rolled into the hub website, which we're working on currently. Next slide. So we are still writing grants, of course, and, you know, delivering, linking people to training workshops. And eventually when we get the upstairs ready, we want to provide hotspot desks for visitors and people in the community that have small businesses. Next slide. So Lillooet Grown, supporting local food security, promoting buy local, highlighting local farmers and growers, and considering sustainable and environmental impacts. And we'll just quickly go through these slides because I know I'm running out of time. Slides, go. So we've had on-farm mentorships, emergency farm labor pool, and building connections. Next slide. Beautiful farm, that's One Love Farm. We took gleaning fruit and made products out of them. And we'll be doing some food security workshops as we move forward once we get the kitchen up and running. Next slide. We made some dried fruit and some popsicles and juices and sold some of them at the farmers market. We're not able to sell them out of the hub yet because we don't have a certified kitchen and the permitting to sell those things. So we're working on that as we speak. Next slide. And we are going to be working on the community food box program and supporting farmers by selling produce from the hub. And we've got lots of squash and carrots, so please come down to the hub. Next slide. And this was just a flyer that went out to the farmers just to let them know what we're up to and what opportunities were available to them as well. Next slide. And when we are able to, once COVID is over, we'd like to do dialogue dinners instead of just sitting people down and not offering anything to eat, and some event cafes and pop-up farm to table events. But so we are in the process of planning some of those for next year. Next slide. And then a Lillooet Made. This is what most people see when they first come into the hub, is the art gallery. And so basically we're supporting the arts and culture in the communities, promoting buy local again, highlighting the local artists and makers, and increasing art literacy within the community. And next slide. And again, just showing, the art mentorship. Next slide. This is the art gallery. Here's the 2 hub ambassadors, 2 of them setting up for an art show. Next slide. We're encouraging creativity. This was our first sculpture in the hub. And we're doing meet and greets with the artists and working on art in the park programs. Next slide. And this was the second show that we wanted to have was really around Indigenous culture. And because it was Orange Shirt Day, we decided that October would be that month. And so for the whole month of October, the whole hub was basically taken over by Indigenous artists who were showcasing their work. And wow, there was some beautiful work there. We took it down, a lot of that work down that was just on display. But many of those artists have now become members of Lillooet, and they will still be having some work in the gallery, work that they want to sell. Next slide. We are having art at the hub classes on Thursdays and on Saturdays, and those are ramping up. And tonight we have our first drawing and painting for the month of November, and we have 14 people signed up for that. So next slide. There's just some pictures of what we've been doing. Next slide. And what we're working on right now is identifying locations within the community around murals and connecting artists and owners together. So already Lillooet Inns has agreed that they would like to have a Luther Brigman mural on their wall facing out to the car park. And the hub is gearing up to try and get a mural on the side of our wall. People are really busy artists that do murals. So we have a concept, and we're going to start hopefully painting that wall next week with the background colors. Next slide. And then, of course, we're working. You can go to next slide. We're basically want to share the beauty of the area. And we want to partner with the Lillooet Naturalists, Elris, continue to work on developing partnerships with the tourism and heritage sector, and assisting with the Statling Experience tours as requested, like promoting their programs, signing people up, those kind of things out of the hub. Next slide. And we are developing and working on developing guided tours. So a downtown walking tour, which includes the Jade Monuments as well as the Miyazaki House, the museum, and just, the other beauty of the area. We have done 2 trial runs on an e-bike natural and cultural history tour, and we want to do some art studio tours and farm tours next year. And that involves working with the District of Lillooet around trail rails, signage, and structures that we can put up to direct people to those areas. We're working on a grant for that right now. Next slide. So this is just our e-bike, one of our e-bike trips. Next slide. And we want to work on promoting the Kenyan to Alpine hiking and the trails that are around the area, and hopefully working with the Lillooet Naturalists to have some naturalists come and actually do some guided walks and bird walks and things like that. So we're still working on that, but where people pay to actually come and do that work. Okay, next slide. And basically, when people come into the hub, a lot of businesses are already sending people to the hub, and so we're able to talk to them. We have some of the maps there as well, just supporting what the visitor center is doing. Yeah, and next slide. So the Community Connect Innovation Hub is a social enterprise. So basically, we're looking at what social impact can we have in the community, but looking at the enterprise side of it, of how we can develop more social enterprises and more opportunities to grow sustainably. Like grant writing, is so up and down, and we can't rely on that. And small businesses need supports to help them, negotiate all the paperwork that they need to do, to understand where they can get help. And we need to work as a community to try and get more people buying local, as well as supporting local nonprofits. So that is the big picture. If anyone has any questions, I am here to answer any. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And you know what? You're actually pretty much on time. And oh, good. Sal joined us. Good morning, Director DeMare. I was just worrying about where you were. All right. The hub is a phenomenal enterprise in spite of fires, heat dome, COVID, everything has not exactly been easy. I see there's a hand up with Barb and Lori, and please go ahead with your question for Kim. Thank you for your presentation, Kim.
Hi, thank you. Well, first of all, I have to say that Barb and I are sitting here wondering how do you have time to do all this? Like, it's incredible what you've done, and we really appreciate it. But I just wanted to say that I'm part of the Lillooet Community Fund, and just to keep in mind for future projects to, put in a grant, it's only up to $1,000, but it's $1,000. So thank you again.
Thank you.
If I could say, I know that you were having a meeting with the Miyazaki House, so I'm hoping that there was conversation to use their kitchen, because it was certified. I'm sure it still is. So hopefully you can work something out there.
Yeah, we had a lot of good conversations of actually becoming partners, and they have said yes, they would like to be a partner. So their logo will be going on the front of the building, and we will be working with them on a lot of different avenues.
Awesome.
I didn't actually talk anything about moving forward in 2022 and what our recommendations are, but they were in this document. So, and while I've got some District of Lillooet councillors here, one of them was around exploring the idea that both the SLRD and the District of Lillooet would consider putting in another NDIT application on our behalf in 2022 for the Economic Development Fund. And I know the District of Lillooet, most of that goes to the Economic Development Officer, or Suzanne Denbach, who's going to be speaking next. And we have been working with her, but I'm just wondering if there's any avenue to kind of get some more funding around that. So I do have some recommendations on that document that I sent out. And so if anyone has any questions around that as well. But yeah, any other questions? As Vivian said, it's been a really tough year for sure, with the COVID, with the fires and the evacuations. Building renovations at the hub have been really, really challenging, and we still are not able to use the whole facility, which we need to do because the upstairs is where we're going to bring in income from the rental space and the meeting space. So we need to have that space for the restorative justice, for meetings for the not-for-profit, and for co-sharing of that space. So we are still looking for some funding for that. We did apply for a community co-op fund grant to do some of that work, but we were not successful. But the building is still not up to code, so we can't even really go in there and do that work. And so we are in the process of negotiating again with the owners and trying to figure out our next steps in regard to that space. It's an awesome space though, right next door to the library. Jackie?
No, hold on, Kim. And yes, I support us continuing to support the hub. And by way of this, I'm sure that CAO Helmer heard the request and she'll take it under consideration with staff. Director DeMare, hello, you had your hand up, which I can barely see against the white backdrop of the mountains there. So proceed. And then Jackie.
Thank you, Chair Jones. Kim, I'm totally impressed with what you guys have done. I think that's just a great initiative for Lillooet and area. And I wish you the best moving forward. Just phenomenal work. That's just totally impressed. Keep up the good work, Kim.
Okay. Well, we have 2 artists from your region, so that's great. And if you know any more, send them our way.
Yep.
Director Jackie? Alternate Director?
Thank you, Director Birch-Jones. I wanted to echo what everyone else was saying, that it's so amazing, all the different facets that Kim has put together and reached out. And so I wanted to also ask everyone in the room, in our virtual room, to really think hard about how we can support financially the hub and to ensure long-term stable funding, because there's still an aspect of this that we, of course, Kim, we want to become the hub. I say we because I'm part of that as well, but become financially independent. But I think in rural communities, we need to be realistic about the fact that there still needs to be government support for this to ensure that the social and the people part of this is supported, given that we have so many not-for-profits that as we grow, and I'm so excited to see all this development being approved and the growth of Lillooet and this whole entire region happening. But in the meantime, we need to support the people like Kim who are working and probably not sleeping much to do this. So I really want to just put it out there that if we can find some money to support for things like the just everything, and especially to ensure that we stay in the space that we're in, that Kim has worked so hard to get forward, because it has been a grind, absolutely, and I've been part of that. And so yeah, just like thanks Lori for that plug for the Lillooet Community Foundation. And if anybody else knows of any private funding or public funding with any of those things, please pass it forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, well said, Jackie. Have we got some other questions for Kim? I don't see any hands, so I will just thank you for your presentation. And we have Suzanne Denbeck coming on. Will we accept those reports after hearing both of them? I'm not quite sure. CAO Helmer? Yeah, yes, Kim?
Can I stay on to hear what Suzanne has to say?
The meeting is open to the public, so I think you could just live stream it. I'm sort of looking to Melanie for guidance. Yeah, if you were in Pemberton, you could just pop into the board.
Okay, so I leave here. Yes.
Yes, you do. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank
Nice
you.
to see you. Great presentation. And now we will welcome Suzanne. The stars are all aligning. Okay. Item 3.2. And I see a C on the screen. I think that stands for Cadence Strategy.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Suzanne. And I have a note that you also have Caitlin James with you. I'll let you introduce yourselves. You would know everyone here, I think.
Yes. Thank you. Is Caitlin on the call now? I don't see her.
I don't see her either.
Okay, well, hopefully she'll join us shortly. My name is Suzanne Denbeck. I think I know most of you. I've had the pleasure of presenting to NEDIC in the past. And I am the Economic Development Liaison for the Bridge River Valley Area A of the SLRD and also for the District of Lillooet. So I found that combination has actually in the past year proven quite effective in finding some of the opportunities to leverage the work so that area, and also I would say Area B of the SLRD benefits from the work, particularly that's done in the District of Lillooet, and we certainly appreciate Director Birch-Jones' support in some of that work, and Director Demare as well, and of course the Mayor and Council in the District of Lillooet. So happy to be with you today and share an update. Today's focus is Bridge River Valley, but some of the efforts were shared with the District of Lillooet and Area B. So would you like me to screen share, or you do have the presentation, but how would you like to do the logistics of this? There we go. There it is. Thank you. So we can just go to the first slide. Can I do it, or does it have to go through you? Okay. So our focus in the Bridge River Valley Area A in 2021, we have a work plan, of course, that's submitted through the SLRD to NDIT to secure their funding for this position. And our focus going into the year was to continue our work with our Statlium neighbors. We understand that that relationship is absolutely vital to our successful economic development, that we don't operate in a vacuum or in isolation of the communities around us. And of course, we also acknowledge and gratefully acknowledge that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Statlium. So a lot of our work over the years in the Bridge River Valley has been through education and outreach. We have a working group with representatives from Naquatqua, from Shalath, and from the Hoyston community. And we've met in the Bridge River Valley. We've been doing this work for the past 4 or 5 years, where we get together regularly. We've had 2-day events at Tyax Lodge where we share information. Folks stay overnight at Tyax, and we have a dinner and get out on the land together. And that's been really effective. But of course, through COVID, it's been challenging to do that. So through the summer of 2021, we, like everyone, were looking into the crystal ball and trying to understand what we could activate. Between COVID and wildfires, it was incredibly challenging. So we had hoped to have Laura Grizzly Paws from the Hoyston community out at the Hailmore Heritage Site for a weekend of programming and education. And with the intention, the objective was for all the visitors to the area, the second homeowners, the permanent residents in the valley, to just have a better understanding that this is Statlium territory, and to use the Hailmore Heritage Site basically as a platform to share that information. So unfortunately, we had to cancel that weekend because of COVID and the wildfires that were just in Hoyston's backyard, as you all know. But we are rescheduling that for Canada Day in 2022. We think that that is actually quite an important statement, that this happened on Canada Day, because Canada includes all of us. And we've also talked with Shalath and Naquatqua, and hopefully for 2022, we'll expand this program and be able to have a series of weekends. And the site at the Hailmore is quite open. So we want to invite artisans from all the communities to be able to set up their tables and showcase the work that they do, as well as have educational components in Goldbridge and Braylorn, potentially up at Tyax Lodge as well. So that's a new format, and we have some time to organize that. We also, in 2021, we have a website we have a visitor website, bridgerivervalley.ca, which is focused at tourism and visitors, but we also have a resident attraction and business attraction website, liveplay.ca. And we've been coordinating a number of stories on our blog. So I'll just show you a picture of a couple of the stories, if we can go to the next screen. So these are 2 of our stories. I don't know if Caitlin's joined us, but Caitlin James is on our Economic Development Committee, and she grew up in the Bridge River Valley. So she's actually in that first photo. She went to school at the Goldbridge Community School and has carved out a career in her passion of environmental science. She currently works for Talisker, and it's just a really great story of opportunities to create a life in the Bridge River Valley. And that's what we're trying to showcase, because we do need to increase our permanent population if we're to be a sustainable community. And the second story is about Sharon, who's an entrepreneur who opened On the Fly Country Market in Braylorn. And it showcases her desire for a lifestyle and how she made her own opportunity in Braylorn. So again, those are some of our communication vehicles to try and attract new residents. If we could go to the next screen. And I really welcome you. Please interrupt me at any point. Happy to take questions, or we can do that at the end at your discretion, whatever you wish. We also in 2021, of course, we knew going into summer 2021 that we were going to have a lot of visitation. Again, we saw that in 2020, and we saw some of the negative impacts of that, of BC residents really overwhelming the backcountry in many ways. So, we did participate in the Sea to Sky program that has been funded by Destination BC, but frankly, we found it moving too slowly. We knew we were going to be inundated, and while we appreciate the need for research, we needed to act. So we asked for seed funding from that program, but unfortunately we were denied. And so we again appreciate the support that came through all sorts of organizations, including the area directors. Lillooet Invasive Species was very helpful, and we had a great volunteer group. We created this program, Respect for the BRV, the Bridge River Valley, with strong Satliam participation. And you can see that the signage that is up around the valley, welcome to our home, the first language that is seen there is the Satliam language. So we took our existing logo and transformed it into a Recreate Responsibly piece. And some signage is up now. We had a flat sheet produced, and we'll continue to run with this campaign going forward as long as it's necessary. We had volunteers every Friday afternoon through the summer, most Fridays. I think we missed a couple due to the heat, but most Fridays intercepting vehicles. There's really only 2 entry points to the valley. And so it was very friendly. It was not adversarial at all. It was like welcome. And we had a flat sheet. If we can go to the next page. Oh, sorry, I guess it's coming up in a little bit. I'll share it with you. That was handed out with visitors, just encouraging them to recreate responsibly. Some of our other activities in 2021 were artisan training and networking opportunities. We have a very vibrant community of artisans in the valley. And so we wanted to offer them some support if they wanted to take their passion, their hobby to the next level and turn it into a business. So we had 2 or 3 lunch and learn sessions. Again, I would say challenging. We didn't see the turnout that we had hoped for, but if we were able to help 1 or 2 artisans and give them some advice, then that work was worthwhile. From a tourism marketing perspective, we continue to participate in the Mountain Bike BC programs. Our focus in the messaging with that group, we're part of the Sea to Sky Mountain Bike Consortium, as many of it's expanded as Sunshine Coast, North Shore, Squamish, Whistler, Pemberton, and ourselves. I think that's the group now, but all of us, we were, although we're the smallest in terms of sort of size of community, I think we're the loudest voice promoting responsible tourism, and everyone understands that. There's no one on that group that was against that, but we feel it quite intensely in the Bridge River Valley. We also checked in with our residents on a resident sentiment survey that was launched in September, just checking in on how they're feeling through COVID and wildfires, and we'll use that information to inform our work plan going forward. In terms of access, although it's lower down in this presentation, it's not that it's low in priority. Access is extremely important to our opportunity for economic development in the valley. And we've been grateful for Director Demaire's efforts in this regard. So it hasn't been a major factor in the work plan of the Economic Development Committee, but only because Director Demaire is doing all the heavy lifting to try and get some more improvements to Road 40 and the Hurley. And then also, of course, BC Hydro, really important player for all of us in the Northern SLRD. We keep engaging with them, and we did have 1 virtual open house about the Lajoie capital project. So we need to continue to beat that drum, and whenever possible, find opportunities to keep the economic benefits of that work local to all of the Northern SLRD. So I mean, obviously there are some skills that are going to have to come from away, but we keep trying to reach out to BC Hydro to understand not just what their needs are today, but what their needs are going to be in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, so that if there is some capacity building that we can do or some attraction of residents with a certain skill set, that we can be on that with sufficient lead time to have an impact. And if we could go to the next slide. You know, it's funny, the year flies by, and when I pull together these summaries, it's like, you know, there was a lot going on despite COVID and wildfires. We had a concept for locals helping locals. It was a trade show concept where we have a lot of second homeowners, and they all have needs for trades and services. And we felt that there was not enough understanding of what they could purchase locally in the Bridge River Valley. So if you need a handyman, if you are looking for a piece of art for a wall in your cabin on Gun Lake. So we had a sign up, and we were going to do this in Labor Day. But again, I think we had a lot of summer fatigue at the end of the season, and our sign up by the actual operators, the trades and the service providers was pretty limited. But we do feel it's a good idea. And so we're going to reboot for May long weekend when a lot of the second homeowners, they've closed up for the winter, they come back, they open up, they realize that there's a whole long list of things that they need to do to maintain their property. And we'll set that up at the community hall. And if we're still dealing with COVID, we'll make it's a decently large space. So we'll keep it COVID safe and COVID friendly, and have an outdoor kids area, and really just make some more connections and build community and keep the economic impact of some of this work local for us. Go to the next slide. One of the most important things, and I would say one of the most frustrating things that we worked on through 2021 was our housing initiative. We are working in partnership with Shalath Development Corporation, Rod Louie, and we have a housing subcommittee that's chaired by Dave Sharp. He's involved with the Whistler Housing Authority here. He's got quite a depth of knowledge on affordable housing. And we had talked with Hydro about engaging with them too, to understand their housing needs as they go forward with some of these major capital programs. So in 2019, we did a housing needs survey. 2020, we identified Crown land in Goldbridge. That survey indicated that we needed housing of various configurations, some smaller units for singles, whether it's the visiting paramedic or nurse or doctor, two-bedroom units, three-bedroom semis, different sizes, but Goldbridge as kind of our central community was the right place to do this. And there is a wealth of Crown land right in downtown Goldbridge. So we identified the lots that we were interested in pursuing. And honestly, we spent all of 2021 chasing BC Housing about availability of that Crown land. They were working with their counterparts in the other ministry that controls that. And after a year of asking them, you know, what's the answer? Can that Crown land be released to a housing society? We finally got an answer that the first piece of land that we're interested in is designated for a new forestry office. The likelihood of that actually happening, I mean, our guess is that that's a designation that's 20 or 30 years old. And so, but now we need to go to FLNRO to acknowledge that they don't need this land. So we've had another setback there, and it's been very challenging. So we're going to reach out and to Director Demare and also to our MLA, and just try it another way to see if we can get some more traction. We need to move more quickly. We want to be shovel ready for the next round of large funding grants that comes through BC Housing. We don't know when that is. The staff at BC Housing don't know when that is, but you know, we look forward to, you know, future provincial budgets. Some things may fall off, you know, COVID related supports, but we think that housing is going to remain a priority for this government. And so we want to be ready. So that's, we're still on it, but unfortunately, despite our best efforts, we were banging our heads against the wall quite a bit in 2021, but we will keep at it. We could go to the next slide. So this is a few slides now on regional collaboration. I thought that would be interesting for the group. Many of you have seen this, so I'll go through it fairly quickly. We were successful in getting $20,000 from Destination BC to promote a circle tour between Pemberton, Lillooet, and the Bridge River Valley. We went through a design exercise, and it was a great relationship builder for the three organizations. We had not worked together formally. There'd been lots of talk and lots of effort. So we have the Range Beyond Range Circle Route, and we're targeting a specific demographic of fairly adventurous travelers that have their own four-wheel drive vehicle to come to our communities and explore beyond Whistler and the sort of the more traditional spots in the SLRD that attract visitors. And I know this was a priority of the SLRD some years ago when we explored circle routes together. So it was nice to make this one happen. We go to the next slide. This is the map, the circle route map. There is a microsite. So there was a social media campaign driving travelers to the microsite. This map was on the microsite, and we recognize that as we go forward, we'd like to continue this campaign in 2022. We are hoping that Hoist and Experience Tours will reopen for summer of 2022. And also, we've been in discussions with Shalath. They're interested in promoting Liltem Mountain Hotel. So we're going to expand this to have more Statlium inclusion. And as the campground improvements progress, the intention, I believe, is that Sekelwash will have some form of cultural sharing at the campground in Lillooet. So that will be another Indigenous cultural experience that led by those communities that could be, if they wish to be included in this program, we would be happy to include them in it. If we go to the next slide, I'll just show you oh no, I won't show you. It's the next piece. So the social media campaign, we kept hitting the gas and then hitting the brake because of COVID and wildfires. And so we have some money to carry forward on that. We hope to receive another $20,000 from Destination BC. And then we hope to match that with monies from NDIT. There is an application to the CCCTA for MRDT funds. So we're hoping to actually go bigger and better in 2022. And we want to tip our hat to Tourism Pemberton. They are administering the program, and Carly, who works for Tourism Pemberton, has done a fabulous job. And it's been a really great collaborative and a good opportunity to show what we can do when we work together. So we'll go to the next slide. Here's the responsible tourism piece, just a little bit more information on that. And it was wonderful to see how it expanded. So we started our campaign in March, and we had the volunteers. We developed the handout. That handout is now was picked up in Squamish. Tourism Squamish loved it and said, okay, can we use it too? And we'll just, we'll make it Squamish, but it looks very, very similar. And then I also had the chance to share it with Tourism Lillooet. And so it was used in Squamish-Lillooet and the Bridge River Valley. And I think that that's a really, in terms of getting the message through to travelers, when they see it repeatedly in various communities, that's a very effective way of getting that messaging home. So let's, and a tip of the hat, the original design came from Kootenay Rockies Tourism. Through some of my work in the Kootenays, I had seen this piece and went, wow, this is really well done. And so with credit to Kootenay Rockies Tourism, they said, yeah, absolutely use it. Go for it, make it yours. And the more people that are getting this message, the better. So next slide. So this is the piece. I'm sorry, it's so small. It's not quite as busy when you're looking at it in your hand. These were handed out by volunteers in the Friday intercepts. If we go to the next, it's got all the, sorry, go back a slide. It has everything on it that you would expect about wildlife, fires, pack it in, pack it out, invasive species, respect everything local, drive carefully, like all the messages that we want to get out. And then on the back side, we thought, if we go to the next slide now, this was the piece for the Bridge River Valley: get fueled, get fed, get connected, get a bed, get a rush. And that, again, was our intention to say to visitors, please spend some money with us. You're coming and you're using our backyard, and, you're welcome to do so respectfully. But, here's where you can get some gas. Here's where you can get a meal. Come to the Hailmore Heritage Site. There's a visitor booth there. There's artists there. Stay overnight, visit some of our tourism operators. So again, we use the piece in a two-pronged fashion to get that messaging out about responsible travel, but also to try and generate some economic benefit for our businesses. And let's go to the next piece. Now, this is a really important one for us right now, and going into 2022, it is top of the list. And it's always on our list. We were fortunate through COVID. We had some families come and we had last year the student enrollment was 8 students, which for us is good, which I know is probably funny for some of you. But the funding is guaranteed by the school district under their remote school program, so it's not a question of not being funded. But if there are no students, or if the learning experience is not considered acceptable, that's when we have a concern. We're looking at we're concerned, the school goes to grade 7, and then by grade 8, as you enter high school, I mean, right now, the only option is to go to another high school. So a lot of families choose to go to Lillooet. And if there's a younger sibling, then we lose them as well. So yeah, I see Vivian checking her watch. All good, I'm almost done. So this is a real focus for us because we feel very strongly that to be a community in the fullest sense, we need to have a school. If we lose the school, that's a devastating blow for us. So we're looking at some really creative partnerships to be sure that that school remains and is a part of that sense of place and community that we have here. And it's also important for economic development because we want to attract families and employees. But to do so, that ties us back to housing, because as we try to attract families, they come and say, well, we love it here. Where are we going to live? So the two are intertwined, and we need to address them together as we go into 2022. Next slide. High-speed internet, just an update. That work is underway. That is also going to be vital for our economic development efforts to finally have bandwidth and speed that will allow the folks that work from away, the work from anywhere crowd. We have some of them, but the speed of our internet has been a challenge. So that's being upgraded, and Minto has done a fabulous job. Michelle Nortier has done an excellent job managing that project for the Valley. Next slide. So this is the last slide, just sort of looking into the crystal ball. We will work with our Economic Development Committee in our December meeting to review our priorities going forward. I expect to see housing, school sustainability, of course, our relationships with the Statlium, continuing to build and grow those, continuing our respect for the Bridge River Valley campaign, the Range Beyond Range Circle Tour, locals helping locals, the trade show, and if indeed the OCP begins in 2022 for our area, that will also be a really important framework so that we can revisit our 2018 economic development strategy in light of the OCP direction. So that's it. Happy to take comments or questions, and thank you for the opportunity to share our progress.
Thank you very much, Suzanne Denbeck. I haven't seen Caitlin arrive. I don't think so. I do see a question from Jackie, but I just want to say I'm so impressed with what you're doing. And on the heels of this hub presentation, this is all quite heartening and good for you. And I so admire Sal's tenacity in getting the answers to some of these questions. Okay, Jackie Rasmussen, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Suzanne. That was amazing just to see all that was being accomplished. And I just want to put a shout out to you and also to the fact that this position is in place for both the district and the SLRD Area A. And then the ripple effects into B. Like, it just shows how much can be done with dedicated position to coordinate us all. And the fact that there's these benefits over the entire northern region that occur as a result. Like, it's just the synergy, or whatever language we could use, is so amazing. It was great. And it was great to work with you with my hat on with invasive species. And I just wanted to let the group know that we did a calculation of the expenses that we put towards and the wages for our dedicated the visitor spots on Highway 40. And we spent we also printed off those responsible sheets as part of our budget. So that was $8,800 that went towards that project. And over the 2 kiosks, the majority of the surveys collected information in the Hurley, but there were over 840 survey questions and data collected over those 2 things that included things like tourism related questions about where are people from and how long are they staying and where are they staying, to also a shout out to the SLRDs, or I think actually it was more the the coordinator for Bear Aware, so Kenneth Walker. So Bear Aware questions and invasive species questions, and then recreational activity questions. So we're collecting data to create to know what's happening in our region, to get a better understanding of who's our audience, who are the people that are coming, to be able to better target all of our social media and to bring more people into the region, but also give them responsible messaging as a result. So it's a collaboration on many fronts to gain that information, to really bring people in and to have them come with responsible etiquette as well. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Yeah, we couldn't have done it without you, Jackie, and the invasive species group. Your staff and team were amazing. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm looking for other little hands or any other comments or questions for Suzanne. I'm not seeing any. Okay. Thank you very much. This
Absolute
is
pleasure.
Oh, Sal, there you are. Please go ahead, Director Demare.
We need a bigger hands. Thank you, Suzanne, for that presentation. I really like the work with the collaboration with our First Nations neighbors. We definitely need to continue working on that and partnering with them wherever we can. So keep up the good work on that front. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, I would like to ask for a motion to accept the 2 reports from Kim North and Suzanne Denbeck. Moved by Sal Demare, seconded by Barb Weave. Anyone opposed to that? Motion carried. Thank you, and thank you again, Suzanne. Our next item is the consent agenda. We'll take a 5-minute break, but let's work through a couple of things first. How's that? Motion to approve the consent agenda, which just consists of our minutes from the last meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Sal. Seconded by Karen Playfair. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. CAO Helmer, do we have business arising from the minutes?
Thank you, Chair. Not from my perspective, unless any of the directors have anything.
I'm looking for those little yellow hands. Not seeing any. Okay. Staff reports and other business, item 6, and 6.1 is CAO verbal update.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I do have a verbal update for you this morning. First of all, just to let you know that CAO Jeremy sent his regrets. He wasn't able to make it today. The next thing is to let you know that staff is working diligently on getting the live streaming and hybrid meetings up and running. We have the ability to do the Zoom thing, which we're doing now, which is sharing, and we are putting it on a screen today in the office in Pemberton, just in case anyone showed up at the SLRD administration office. The hope is to get this, the hybrid meeting working so that we can have people attend physically in Lillooet, remotely if roads are bad or travel is a concern, and put all of that together and make that available for staff as well to be able to do the same thing, and all of that be accessible to the public, whether they're sitting at a physical location or watching it live streamed or later on demand. So all of that is in the works, and we're hopeful to have this happening soon. We just a little bit of history for the group, if some of you aren't aware, is the legislation changed. And so as of September 29th, the board meeting was done physically, but we didn't have the ability to live stream it. And we found that there's been a lot more people who've been able to participate in our meetings, being such a vast region, with the live streaming component, and they did not show up physically in our gallery for that meeting. The number of volume that we have of people who do tune in to watch the proceedings of the regional district, both live and later on demand. So the board had a special meeting on October the 18th, at which it was decided that live streaming is very important to make sure that everything is available for people across the region to view, and then be able to follow up after the fact if they had any questions for either staff or elected officials. So when the board made that decision, we're now in a position where we had to live stream the meeting today, and we cannot yet do both together, but that's the plan. So I did just want to provide that update, as well as to find out the desire if to do things hybrid is one thing, but to do it hybrid from a remote location outside the SLRD administration office is a further step as well. So although we're hopeful to have all of the hybrid happening soon, I can't guarantee that we'll be able to do that by the NEDIC meeting in January. We are going to make our best efforts. If we are unable to do that, I wanted to find out the desire of the committee with respect to January the 13th meeting, if you would like that to continue as 9 a.m. if we have to do virtual. And if we can do hybrid, if you are comfortable returning to the 10:30 start time to provide the travel window for those people who are coming from away. So I do have something else on the CAO verbal, but I wanted first to turn that over, if I can, Chair, to get your feedback on that.
Thank you. And I would like to invite Sal, Mayor, mainly because you're the one with the biggest travel challenge. What is your preference for January and the future, Sal?
I'm fine with either. If we have to travel, then 10:30 is good. It's basically a 2-hour drive, depending on the weather.
And just to be clear, when we're talking about travel, we're talking about travel to Lillooet. We're not talking about travel to Pemberton. Okay. Just thought I'd say that. In the past, we did have NEDIC meetings where participants attended in Lillooet, and the staff from the SLRD just phoned in, which was completely satisfactory, if that's helpful. And I do agree, virtual meetings starting at 9 is fine. In-person meetings starting at 10:30 is good for our plan. And now I'm looking for other hands or questions or comments. Is it too challenging to consider the hybrid option be set up for Lillooet for NEDIC? Are we going to be confined to the Pemberton boardroom in the future? Do you think, CAO Helmer?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We do have it on our plan that Lillooet, as well as when we do the tours of the board and go out into some of our other communities, which next on the list is a Northern Board tour once we can have that running. There is there's definitely a plan to be able to do that from Lillooet or from other remote locations. But like I say, that's an additional step beyond getting it all working, is to now take it on the road. So that's the reason we're not sure about January for this particular meeting, just because of that additional dimension. We want to be sure that if we do it, we can do it right. So we do very much appreciate your patience as we work through this, and we'll continue to do everything we can and to keep you in the loop as we move forward with that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. If there's no other comments on that particular topic, yep, please proceed then. CAO Helm.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Would you be agreeable to a resolution summarizing what you said about 9 a.m. if it's virtual and 10:30 if it's hybrid for the January, or like for those meetings?
I'll make a motion to the effect that January 2022, we will plan on an in-person meeting starting at 10:30, if possible, under the hybrid model. And if we're going with the Zoom meeting, we'll start at 9. I need a seconder for that motion. Director Demare, thank you. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Does that cover it sufficiently?
That's wonderful. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it.
You don't?
And then the last item that I wanted to, oh, sorry, somebody has their hand up first.
They do. You know, you can wave at me if I'm missing you. Please go ahead, Director Barweed.
I'm just wondering if there's still going to be 3-hour meetings if we start at 10:30. I'm not sure how that works for people that have an occupation. Like right now, Lori has the morning off. If we're going like 10:30 to 1:30, that would go into morning and afternoon. So I'm just curious as to the schedule that way.
We have had a request in the past to have an end time planned for our meetings, and I have discovered that that is not possible. The meeting takes as long as it takes. So it's kind of on us, and mainly the chair, looking at my watch. I'm not sure. We do have set aside in the Area B Select Fund some lunch money for our meeting, when I was wildly optimistic way before COVID. So I don't think I can answer that question completely until we've seen the agenda and know how we're going to proceed in January.
Okay. And that's fine. I wasn't too worried about lunch. I haven't missed many meals, but I was just more concerned because earlier, before we were live, that discussion came about the alternates and not the alternates, and, you know, like just to kind of put it in your craw. And I kind of like having our alternates here because I find, like, if I was to throw Lori into an SLRD meeting, she has no clue what's going on other than reading the agendas and whatnot. So I kind of feel we would end up with the same vote here if we didn't have our alternates at the table.
Thank you. And obviously, I think there's value in having the alternates, or Mayor Bussey and I wouldn't have started with that. But I do want you all to consider if there's enough value for taking up your time in 2022, because we'll talk about that in January. But I don't think we can go farther on the decisions for 2022 at this point. I hear you though about the working people, regular day jobs. Okay, would you like to proceed then, please, CAO Helmer, if there's something else? Oh,
Yes, thank you, Chair. There's one more thing. Oh,
before you proceed, please let me acknowledge Sal.
If need be, I don't mind having the in-person meeting start at 9 either. I get up early anyway. So no issue with me if that's the case.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you want to amend that motion.
Oh. Or make another motion to follow on that one, because I know there's also staff being taken into consideration here, and you know, it's not as safe traveling over the Duffy as early in the morning, la la la. But if staff are just operating from the SLRD office, then really you're the only big traveler, Sal. And so, C.O. Helmer, thank you. How is the best way to include that for the minutes and for the record?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So we have to have at least one member physically present under the new legislation at whatever location that meeting is held. So if the meeting is held in Lillooet, I must have a staff member there before the 9 a.m. start in order to accommodate members of the public who may be attending in person. So that's just a requirement. So I would have to have a staff member there for the 9 a.m. start. And that, yeah, the Duffy, there's definitely some concern from some of the staff about traveling the Duffy early in the morning. And that's also before their regular start time. So there's a situation depending on weather where I would either have to give them additional pay or send them the day before. And we'd have hotel costs depending on road conditions and weather. So there would definitely be an impact there for staff. And I think that's part of the reason why the RD went with 10:30 for all of the travel related start times for both the elected officials and the staff who were involved.
Thank you. And I see Karen Playfair and also Lori.
I was just going to ask, can we not just do another electronic meeting just as we've done? It seems very simple and we could just do that in January. Is there a reason that we can't? Like, does the, I don't know, legislation expire on electronic meetings by next year, or?
Would you like me to respond, Chair, before we? Okay, thank you. Through the Chair. The legislation expired in September, on September 28th, which is why our September 29th board meeting was in the boardroom physically. But there was another piece of legislation that came in at the same time saying that if local governments wanted to, they can put it into their procedures bylaws to permit electronic meetings. And so that's what the regional district did on the October 18th special meeting of the board, was adopt an amendment to the procedures bylaw to permit all of these meetings to be done by electronic means. And that includes electronic, like it could be fully or partially. Our board has taken the position that even if it's a physical meeting, they want it to be electronically available, just because the stats that we have are that so many more people have access to that information, including for NEDIC, but for all of the board and committee meetings. So it's the board's decision at this point. It's in our procedures bylaw that the meetings will all start at 10:30, except there's an ability that if the chair wants to have a different start time, that can be done, and it can be done by resolution of the committee to change that time if it's workable. So it can be done. Thank you, Chair.
And I believe, Lori, you had a question?
I actually had the same question as Karen, so thank you.
Okie doke. And are we okay? Nope. Go ahead, Ms. Playfair.
Sorry, that was supposed to be a raised hand, not necessarily applause, although, you know, I like to applaud. So I'm sorry, I'm missing it though. Can't we just do an electronic meeting in January? And can't we just do that? That seems really simple, given that we're working on this hybrid thing and it's not in place yet, and it's January, it's hard to travel and all that. Can we do that? I missed that. I'm sorry.
I do believe that I can answer that question. Yes, we can. And there are some of us that also feel that there is some value in actually getting together in person. And although my strength on that issue is flagging as the years go by, I still think that there is an added richness to the conversation when we meet. And I've just found chairing on Zoom to be, a real challenge. But it's wonderful that we can meet on Zoom, and we've been able to carry on and still conduct business through all of these tough times. And I'll be quiet now because I see that Jackie Rasmussen has a question.
I just wanted to ask about the need for a staff member in the physical location. If the District of Lillooet is actually a member, can they not, of the SLRD board, can they not provide staffing? Do we have to have, I'm just trying to find another way that somebody else could be over in Lillooet. Does it have to be SLRD staff? Could it be, I mean, yeah, just legislation wise.
Or could it be the chair?
Yeah, the chair or one of us or district of Lillooet. I don't know, like, yeah, I'm just trying, anyways, just putting it out there. Just see, all this legislation can seem so restrictive, that's all. But it's not a big deal. I'm glad that we could have electronic, and I'm happy to do that too in January, but I'm, yeah, happy to be there in person. If it's electronic, do we have to have we don't have to have a staff person in Lillooet, do we?
Through the chair, we do have to have an employee present of the SLRD, of the local government that's holding the meeting. And if we want the physical location for members of the public to be Lillooet, then the staff member would still have to be in Lillooet. But in order to avoid the time and travel and accommodate a 9 a.m. start for this meeting, we put the location, the physical location, as Pemberton, BC, recognizing that that's not geographically ideal, but that typically members of the public have been choosing to tune in, whereas they were not attending physically in person when the meetings were being held in Lillooet. After consultation with the chair, due to very little physical attendance, that was deemed okay for this meeting. So it could be done the same way in January. If we had to have a virtual meeting, we could have the physical location as Pemberton, BC, for that particular month, and still continue to look towards another location for future meetings. Thank you, Chair.
And if we had more staff living in Lillooet, that would solve a whole bunch of problems, especially in Area B. Okay. Barb Weed, please go ahead. Director Weed.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my mute button, believe it or not. Can we not just have it here, like do it both ways, but have it here in Lillooet in the boardroom, and whoever can be there is there, and whoever can't is on Zoom? I'm kind of not sure what the big problem is, other than, like we have district staff here in the building during the day, and I know they're not, but if we scheduled it that it was in the Lillooet boardroom and then the weather turned or whatever, is it really a crisis that Pemberton staff couldn't get here, or but they're still online?
Just following up on that, we did have our original meetings in the boardroom when there was just the 3 directors, and we have to remember space requirements too, thinking about the never-ending COVID pandemic. That Linda, I believe, with Patricia Westerholm just phoned in, and the public would have been able to attend if they'd been interested. So I'll just pass the question on again to CAO Helmer, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The legislation that came in enabling electronic meetings also has other requirements associated with it to do with the province's changes to how meetings are conducted. And one of them is that we must have a physical location where members of the public can have access to the proceedings of the meeting. And our board has taken the decision that the meeting must be available by live streaming. So to combine both of those things would mean the staff member would have to be physically present at the location where the other people are physically present. And we would have to be technologically at the point where we have both the hardware and software in place to be able to make that meeting available through live streaming. And that's the part we're not yet able to do. And as I was saying, putting that on the road is an added dimension. So if people were to show up physically at the District of Lillooet, and if the District of Lillooet was agreeable to that occurring, which I think is maybe what you two are doing right now, you would be doing what you're doing if we were doing it as like you would be a Zoom box on our screen here. And we just have to watch the sound piece if people had multiple devices going in order to accommodate that, to be sure that there was no echo or things of that nature from things occurring in the same room. Yeah. Hopefully that answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you. More comments on that? Okay. Could we take like a 5-minute break and then we'll carry on with the roundtable discussions and a few other items here? Yes, CAO Helmer.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just if I'm okay if you guys want to take a 5-minute break, but I do have one more topic under the CAO verbal when we come back.
Apologies. Yes, you did. You see, this is what happens to me on Zoom. Okay. Yes, you had another item. Please proceed, and we'll finish that and we'll accept it, and then we'll take a little 4-minute break.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. Yeah, so the other item I wanted to just give you a quick verbal update on is in response to a question that the committee chair asked me about fire recovery and restoration. And that is being led by the Ministry of Forest Lands, Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development in the Cascade District. There's been some initial discussions with the Statlium communities, and Daryl Adrian has also been participating in that. And Cascade are in the process of forming a committee, which we're supposed to be, as SLRD, invited to be a member of. But so far we have not been involved in this committee, and so we don't have a specific update on that. We'll look at which staff person would be the most appropriate to participate in that particular committee, being that it's restoration rather than emergency response, but whoever would be best appropriate to the terms of reference when they come out, we'll make that decision. We did receive an update from Flynn Road so far, which was that they have proposed an emergency motor vehicle closure over many of the 2021 wildfire areas, including the Mackay Creek area. And this has been done to prevent further damage to the now sensitive soils and vegetation with the burned areas, which they are sensitive to. And they want to prevent the spread of invasive species and minimize access to vulnerable wildlife populations. So that's a temporary measure that will be in effect while these restoration activities are being planned and actioned for those fire areas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. It worries me when you say in the process of forming a committee. I'm like, whoa, we should be on this already. However, I do realize we're not the only place that had a fire. Jackie Rasmussen, I see your hand up.
Just wanted to contribute to that. My understanding is there has been some discussions with the Stadtlium communities, and I have received requests with my ED hat on with Elris regarding group discussions and meetings that have been occurring. So I am curious to know whether these they are with the lead for the restoration and rehabilitation with the Cascades Forest District. That's BJ Moore, and it was with Daryl Adrian. So CAO Helmer, maybe you'd like to follow up with Cascades, because this committee, it could be the committee or it could be just the Stadtlium. I'm not completely sure. I was invited to speak at a November 9th meeting regarding seeding. And so that seems consistent with the update that you're getting from them. But I would imagine, with respect to what Director Birch Jones has alluded to, it sounds like a committee, at least partial committee with the Stadtlium, has already started. And even just having a SLRD representative there to observe the discussions, I think would be advantageous and might be, so I just encourage a follow-up on that to understand what is happening currently. And then if it's not at the actual committee, when would the committee be happening? Because stuff is happening now, including heritage crews have already been out on the ground looking at the fires as well.
Through the chair, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll definitely follow up.
Is it helpful to have a resolution to that effect, CAO Helmer, or is just for the minutes the fact that we've been informed by Jackie that some of those initial meetings are already happening, thank goodness, but that we would like to participate from the SLRD corner?
Thank you, Chair. Definitely, if you want to have a resolution along the lines of what you're saying, that that you encourage and support the inclusion of the SLRD in that committee, then we would take that information and provide that to them as well.
I will be happy to make that resolution, seconded by Sal Demare. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Yeah, I think that's helpful. I certainly had a conversation with lead Andrew Snetzinger shortly after, early September, I think, and was really reassured by him that there were all sorts of amazing plans for restoration and rehabilitation in place between Cascades and Stadtlium. And so, yes, if we can participate and be of some assistance, that's to the good. Other comments? Then I'd like to have a motion to accept the report, verbal update from CAO Helmer, moved by Sal Demare, seconded by Jackie. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. So we have our roundtable discussion and a couple of other interesting topics, but I would like to break for 5 minutes. And by my watch, come back at 10:46. Would that be okay? Get a coffee? All right, thank you. We'll recess till 10:46. Welcome back. And I see my clock says 10:46. The roundtable discussion, item 6.2 on our agenda is next. And I'd like to start with Area A with Director Sal DeMare and Karen Playfair. Yes, CAO Helmer.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just confirm if alternate director Rasmussen has come back yet or not? Okay, thank you, Chair.
Not back yet. I'm assuming Kristen is there. Jackie will pop up shortly. Oh, maybe I could show you something in the meantime. This beautiful, can you see that card okay? Yeah. That came as a thank you from the Hub. And it's local artist Robert Narcisse. And they sent one to the SLRD and to lots of us that contributed. So it's quite a beautiful design, and they're going to be using that. And they're going to be putting their new logo up on the building pretty quick too. So let's proceed. We're back to order and over to Area A.
Thank you, Chair Birch-Jones. First, the picture in behind me. Karen can't say where it is. Does anybody know where that picture is?
Behind La Joie Dam?
No, it's Lorna Lake in the Big Creek Provincial Park. It's the headwaters of Big Creek that eventually flows into the Chilcotin River. It's one of our big tourism draws for adventure tourism in the valley. And I've been there many, many times over the years. We're going to have a Remembrance Day in Goldbridge at the Goldbridge Cemetery, where the cenotaph is, on November 11th. We didn't have one last year, so it's good to be able to have one again this year. The BRBCA put on a number of safety training courses, S100, S185, wildland fire safety training, and basic chainsaw safety courses. They put on 2 this year. So it's good to see the training courses back up again also. Last year we didn't have any courses. And they also put on a food safe course, and I got recertified. And a number of other people got recertified with food safe courses. We've also had 2 fire smart events, one at Gun Lake and one at Marshall Lake. And they were both well attended, and thanks to Robin Strong, the SLRD Fire Smart Coordinator, for putting them on. That's all for me. Thank you.
Would you like to add something, Karen Playfair, from A?
No, I think Sal's covered it.
Okay. Lillooet, BC.
Okay, here we go. We are also having Remembrance Day celebration at the cenotaph. I'm not sure if there's a parade, but there will be something happening at the cenotaph. We were introduced to a new housing project at our council meeting the other night, on Tuesday night. Will be 23 units, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, 3 commercial spaces. Can you not hear me?
Barb, I'm going to interrupt just for a second because you're just breaking up a little bit. I sort of got that we're holding Remembrance Day. Maybe start over and go a little closer to the mic.
Okay. We are holding Remembrance Day at the cenotaph. I'm not sure if there will be a parade. We were introduced to a new housing project at our council meeting on Tuesday night. It will be 23 units, Of those, 3 units will be commercial. The other 20 units will be 1 and 2 bedroom apartments to lease. We also have another new housing development coming, a seniors development coming up where the old Riverview School is, and that's being led by Hoyston, or the Bridge River Indian Band. It's going to be 3 buildings. 1 of those will be for staff accommodation. The other 2 will be seniors living, transitioning into some assisted living as well, so that they never have to leave where they are, type of thing. We're also accepting resolutions if anybody wants to put anything in for SILGA or UBCM. What else can I say here? We've been busy. Lori has one thing. I'm sure you can hear her going, I have one thing. And now that we've played guessing games as to where Director Demare is, can you guess where we are? No comments. We're in the mayor's office fighting over whose chair this is. Just food for thought while you're thinking about 2022 and 2023.
And further to that, I just wanted to say that I'm really happy about the Cascade committee being formed with fire restoration, and that I have been working for the last few months on forest fire prevention. So I'm on the other side of that. I've been talking to Jackie Taggart. I've met with Brad Biss, and I am going to, well, we've got a letter kind of in the works that I'm going to bring to next council meeting. Hopefully they will endorse it along with Fire Chief Darren Oinke, and we are going to send that to the provincial government. Brad Biss, he holds a seat on the House of Commons, so he said as long as I put together a petition and talk, oh, I need about 35 signatures or more, then he can speak to that petition at the House of Commons. And basically what it is just saying that over, you know, over the last summer, what BC is doing is clearly not working. And I want to address those issues that are not working and promote change to make things work again, and have that restoration of the forestry. And it come from the boots on the ground people, the firefighters, the forest tax, the farmers, the people that were really closely implemented and affected with this past few months. And also, if you have not seen the 2 videos on Paxton Valley, please watch them, because they are, they're so sad, and yet they are so great at the same time. So, and Brad Biss, he was going to watch them, and he's going to watch them right before he takes this to the House of Commons, so that he has some emotion and guns towards fighting that. Guns probably not the right word, but you know what I mean. Thank you.
Got it. And I see a question from Jackie Rasmussen.
Thank you. I just wanted to have a little bit of clarification, Lori, when you were talking about what wasn't working and what Brad Viz or Jackie Taggart would bring forward. What were the main points of what wasn't working?
Well, there was things like, an example is one of the firefighters said to me, you know, we're working 6 months of the year to put out the fires, and the rest of the time we are paid on EI. And that does come from a different pot of money, but why not employ them 12 months of the year? We're still paying them anyways, and do that fire restoration. So I guess back in 2002, I believe, one of the people that I talked to said that when It used to be within the TSA, so Ainsworth or whatever mill was in that TSA would kind of look over and do that prevention, forest restoration. But once BC, the government took it over, they no longer held the same standards and it's no longer being done. So things like that need to be done. So that's what we're looking at. Change that we can enhance, put people to work, do some cleanup of our hot burned areas. Yeah. Ideas like that. More to come. But like I said, Jackie, if you watch that Paxton Valley, like we need to know if there's a fire breaking out and it's in our backyard and nobody's coming, they need to know that nobody is coming. They were told we're coming. Don't go in there, because I mean, the hazards are if we as people go in there and try and put out a forest fire and a helicopter comes along and dumps a pile of water on us, then that's, you know, we're going to get hurt. So in Paxton Valley, they told them they were coming and nobody showed. So that's the kind of things that we need to engage the people on the ground. I know that Chief Oiki, he has been in a few conversations with people too, to try and figure out what they can do better. And he's got lots of good ideas. Like one of them was just tailgate parties with our First Nations. So let's train the people that so you take, let's say, take Bridge River. They go out there and they say, okay, who wants to be trained on a forest fire? Because if nobody's coming and there isn't enough resources to put out that fire, let's gather our people here and figure out and train them so that when the fire does come, we've got some trained people that can at least go out there and start that forest fire protection. So all the way along from prevention to what we can do when a forest fire breaks out. That's a change we need.
I see.
Thanks. I just wanted to respond and thanks, Lori, for clarification. And I'm sure that with Darren's help, you guys will get to the main issues, knowing that he's got a lot of background in this and connections in forestry. Some of the comments, I don't want to dive down into that. Obviously, full disclosure, my husband works for the Wildfire Service and I have a lot of background knowledge as far as some of the things that go on. And I have a great appreciation for their work and their expertise, and knowing that this was a catastrophic year and we have a lot of engagement with local First Nations already in this zone. We have 2 wildfire units that are from the communities, but it's always good to advocate for more resources and looking at things differently, given that climate change is here and now, and we're going to be experiencing these level of catastrophic years and heat domes for years to come. So it's good to be able to continue to advocate for more resources. Good for you. Yep.
I see Saldemare.
Thank you, Chair Burst-Jones. I'll make a comment. I've created a director report that will be going to the EAD meeting and hopefully get approved and sent to the board meeting. Very similar. And yeah, if you watch the EAD meeting on next Wednesday, you'll see it. We need more involvement, especially in our rural communities, with the whole aspect of initial attack on fires. And I've also got in there regarding full-time work for BC Wildfire Service year-round, and in the off months to go out and do fuel mitigation projects. So thank you. Good move.
Thanks. And if anyone wants to watch the EAD meeting next week, it will be live stream. You can go to the SLRD website and click on and watch it. People actually do. It's kind of fun. You get some odd comments from different corners, and it has changed and expanded the democratic process a bit to be able to do things this way. Other comments, or shall we move to glorious Area B? I have a bit of a laundry list here. Jackie, would you like to make a couple of comments and then I'll just follow up on you?
Sure. I think can you remind me, there was one that you said I should really do and then I forgot, but
Signing the MOU.
Oh, the MOU. Okay, I was going to mention the MOU for sure. So the Lillooet Regional Invasive Species Society, with a lead from our treasurer, Bill Spencer, over just on the 19th, 17th, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the St'át'imc Chiefs Council Land and Heritage Group and the St'át'imc Government Services. Oh, the sun is coming out. And that MOU now gives a written a premise for working collaboratively together on managing invasive species within. Basically, it's the same area as Area A and B, but includes the St'át'imc part of the boundaries include the St'át'imc territory. So it's a combination. That's what the Invasive Species Society operating area includes. And so this is, from what I can tell, we're the first regional invasive species organization to sign such a memorandum of understanding. And the advantages of this being that it means that if there's changes to our organization, whether that be with the staff within SCC or SGS, as well as LRIS and our board, that this document continues and gives us the principles and the values and the purposes of how we are to work together. And the other thing that's separate but attached to that is their land use plan, as well as the an information sharing agreement, because of course LRIS operates with public money, so all of our information is public, but we have to be careful about how, if we get information from the communities or from SCC or SGS, that we're treating that carefully, and they have, so that agreement outlines how we are to use that information and to not share it or share it. So this is a really big move forward for us, because we've been operating with these principles since we started, but now we have that written down.
Yeah, congratulations. And I was happy to see it was featured in the local newspaper. And I think it's really something to celebrate. And yeah, well done. I had a few little notes for my report. Our grant writer, Lori Reimer, funded through NDIT, just motors away. She's doing some good work for Sal and I, and she's doing some excellent reporting too. And Mandy, Kim mentioned, is coming up on a regular basis, and she's made some good outreach with the chamber and the hub and others. We are in the process of hiring a climate action person with the SLRD. I saw the ad in the Peak. Hopefully it's advertised more widely than that. I'm sure it is. The landfill feasibility study is done, and so we will hear a bit more about that optimistically in January. The report's going to the board in November. We have Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure on an upcoming agenda with this committee. So think about that. And I continue to help provide some support to the OWL bus service out of the Friendship Center. And I hope you're all aware that we do have that service running out of Lillooet, both to Whistler and Kamloops. She's fairly under the radar, but it's been a fairly steady service, which is great. And she's received all sorts of other funding, which is very good. The park at Marble Canyon has been closed. Our hydro campground is also closed. Quatlinimo campsite is having a modest expansion right now. After some consultation, extensive consultation actually, by Tim Bennett and Flynn Rowe, but it's a very lovely expansion that they're doing at Fountain Lake there, and it's led by Hackliff and Cascades, Rec Sites and Trails. And they are making some special efforts to protect the western toads and educate about them, so I'm happy about that. We're going to talk about C2C in a later item on the agenda. Don't think anything else is all of that earth-shattering. But I do have some ideas for invites or topics for some of our future meetings, but maybe also you guys think about that, and we can talk about that more at our roundtable in January. So I'm just going to put that out there. You know, I was thinking we could hear from Auris, agriculture, the tourism group. I'd like to hear more about the restoration efforts post-fire and so on. The library's been doing some amazingly good work through the last tough COVID heat dome months, and it's just reminded me that was someone else I thought the committee might like to hear from. And I'll stop there. Jackie, would you like to add something else from B? Agriculture? Okay. Do we need a motion to receive the roundtable discussion? Yes. I'll make that motion, seconded by Director Demare. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. So item 6.3 is the information report, status update, Northern Statlium Intergovernmental Relations Working Group, and we have that report, pages 81, 82. Are we inviting anyone to speak to that report? Is Jeanette standing by? Yes, or Patricia? Yes, please proceed.
I believe we have Jeanette.
Welcome, Jeanette. We're at item 6.3.
Hi, everybody. It's Jeanette Naden, Communications and Engagement Consultant for the SLRD, reporting with an information report on Northern Statlium Intergovernmental Relations Working Group and the possibility of a community-to-community forum with the Northern Statlium in 2022. So it's a fairly quick report. There's not a lot to update you on. Jeremy Deniger, CAO at District of Lillooet, and myself have had 3 meetings with Nora Greenway, the interim governance advisor at Papatla Council. And the meetings have been quite positive. We've all, basically the gist of it is that we agree that there's a desire to continue building relationships, and also a desire to broaden the participation on the working group to include more Northern Statlium communities and possibly the Lillooet Tribal Council as well. Previously, more communities were involved in the process, but prior to the working group effort stalling due to COVID, it was just the District of Lillooet, the SLRD, and Papatla Council who are actively participating, and those are the 3 organizations that have signed on to the protocol agreement. When in our last meeting with Nora Greenway, which was just last week, we had talked about the possibility of maybe working on a shared project as a way to bring other communities into the mix. And one of the things that we talked about was an idea of a speaker series for truth and reconciliation, and topics related to that. And as Kim Norris shared in her update earlier today, Chief Shelley Leach from Papatla Council and Chief Colleen Jacob actually did do an hour-long community conversation through the hub last week. And I wasn't present, but apparently it was very well received. And discussions with Chief Shelley after indicated that she would be interested in doing more of that type of work. So that's certainly something for us to consider moving forward, because I know that prior to the working group going on hiatus, that was something that we had talked about, this need to broaden the participation to include the community, and also to do more work in terms of training and community engagement. So that's just something to keep in mind. Capacity continues to be a challenge for all of the organizations. And so we sort of discussed this idea of going back to the original purpose of the working group, which is to build relationships and improve communication. And how can we do that, and setting realistic objectives without spreading ourselves too thin. District of Lillooet CAO Dediger has been in touch with the Lillooet Tribal Council, and he's reached out to Cleakit and the Papatla Council as well to ascertain their interest in doing a community to community forum next year in 2022. Last I heard, which was last week, he had not yet heard back from the Lillooet Tribal Council. My understanding is that they have a meeting in early November. So he's expecting an answer back from them at that time. Papatla Council had a meeting last week as well. So I'm after this meeting, we'll contact Nora Greenway to get an update from them. But she was going to be requesting direction from Papatla Council at their meeting last week about whether they were prepared to continue participating on the working group, and if so, in what capacity, and whether or not they had ideas about how we might broaden the reach of the working group. So in terms of next steps, I intend to reach out to her to find out what Papatla Council has said in terms of their interest in restarting the working group. And I'll follow up with CAO Deniger as well following that LTC meeting to find out if it looks like there's going to be an appetite to have a community to community forum meeting early in 2022. The community to community forum intake deadline is December the 3rd for this year. So if we can get an application in by the 3rd of December, we could potentially get funding to do a forum in the first quarter of 2022. If we don't get all of our ducks in a row in time for that December 3rd deadline, the regional C2C program, basically, they only announce the funding every year, but so far the funding has been available every year. So if we don't get the application in by the December 3rd deadline, there likely will be a new intake announced early in 2022. And that's it for the update, and available for questions. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jeanette and Nadan. And I know it's been a difficult, you can only push so much. We have reached out, and groups are reorganizing and recovering and collecting up after this sort of series of disasters that we've been through. I see Director Demare has a comment or a question. Please go ahead, Sal.
Thank you, Birch Jones. Jeanette, I'm just curious if we reached out to the actual northern Statland communities like the Hoyston and so on and so forth.
No, I haven't.
If we don't receive anything, or District of Lillooet does not receive anything from the Lillooet Tribal Council, I'm just wondering if we couldn't reach out to each individual community. I know there, a lot of the different organizations are working individually with the Shalat and Hoyston, and we've come up with some agreements and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's my take on it. Like, it's the Lillooet Tribal Council, which is all of them, doesn't want to participate. Is it time to reach out to the other communities?
I see Jackie Rasmussen. Jeanette, would you like to respond or?
Yes, sorry, Director DeBerry. Yes, I haven't reached out directly to the individual communities as there was no directive to do that, but certainly that's an option. One thing to keep in mind as well, I know I'm aware that Suzanne Denbach, who's the economic development contractor for District of Lillooet, has been in conversation with the individual communities, and I believe she's holding somewhat regular meetings with economic development officers for those communities. I did have a conversation with Jim MacArthur from the Lillooet Tribal Council, and one of the things he said was that, you know, we could potentially, if we wanted to get, we could potentially make a presentation to the LTC, which is an opportunity to present the opportunity to all the communities at once. And that was something that Papatla Council was potentially interested in participating on as well. So that's why I was sort of wanting to wait until we hear back from Papatla Council and the District of Lillooet about where things are at with that community forum, because if there is an appetite to have another leadership meeting, then that would be a great opportunity to actually bring all of the leaders together in one room and have the conversation about the working group and what's working and what isn't working, and to try and assess that rather than going out to each individual community directly. But certainly that's an option, and I'm happy to do that if that's what the committee would like me to do. Thank you.
Yeah, just to reply to that. Yes, I know Jim very well, and I think doing a presentation to the Lillooet Tribal Council and having the Papatla Council there also, since they're not a member anymore, I think that's an excellent idea, and that's a good step to take prior to go to the individual communities.
That makes very good sense to me as well. Thank you. I think you've set a good course here and have a little bit of patience. So Jackie.
I don't have much more to add. I was going to go down the same route, which was being able to work at that political level first, so that you are hearing from them about buy-in to continue the government to government conversations that would lead their staff. So in the past, that's where it can be kind of hard. And if I put my LRIS hat on, you know, you have to work at that political level so that they are in the know and understand but there's also the stuff that's on the ground and staff. And so you kind of need communication with both. But at the same time, definitely the political level needs to say, yeah, we want to do this, and we want staff to engage. And that kind of gives you the go ahead to do that. I mean, it doesn't hurt to check in with Suzanne and find out who she's been talking to, but at this point, I think we need to check in with the chief and councils, the chiefs first, and then move to the staff level to do that community discussion. So, and I have to just say that, you know, just having you back, Jeanette, it's amazing, because this has been a gap. So yay, I'm so glad to see you, and I'm happy that you're working on this, because I think it's really important. But it's also to be, for lack of a better word, gentle on yourself too, because of how there's so much going on in each of those First Nations. So we're working against a lot of challenges to engage. So we're going to have to be super patient as a committee, and as well as with our staff, that it's not going to go fast. It's going to go even slower than we've even experienced before.
Thank you very much for saying that, Jackie. That was very well said. I echo your comments. Other comments for Jeanette? I would like a motion to receive that report. Then we don't. I think we'll just receive that report. We know where you're at and what we're trying to do. Motion by Director Barabouille, seconded by Director Rasmussen, alternate Jackie. All right. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Annette. Our next item is item 6.4, request for decision, Northern Development Initiative Trust, the Business Facade Improvement Program. And we have Tricia here. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I think Jeanette is actually going to speak to this as well. Thanks.
I apologize. Please proceed, Jeanette. The more we hear from you, the better.
All right. Well, thanks very much.
We're very glad you're here.
I'm happy to be here. Jeanette Naden, Communications and Engagement Consultant, reporting on the Northern Development Initiative Trust Business Facade Improvement Program for 2022. And just a recap on 2021. We did apply for up to $20,000 in funding through the Business Facade Program to provide funding to individual businesses, grants of up to $5,000 to do facade improvements in 2021. We only received one application, and after doing a thorough review of the application, determined that it was eligible. So I haven't actually received an update from the business owner to find out if the project was finished. He has up until December 31st to submit his final reporting, but our expectation is that that grant will be approved and funds of $5,000 dispensed to that owner. And Patricia and I had a meeting with staff from Northern Development Initiative Trust last month to talk about the program for 2022 and how best to move forward, given that there was $15,000 worth of unspent money from 2021. NDIT encouraged us, rather than reapplying for 2022, what they suggested was that we roll over the unused portion of our 2021 grant into 2022, which basically means that we don't have to reapply for the funding. It's just already there. CAO Helmer did reach out to Directors Birch Jones and Demare last month and received verbal approval to go that route. So that's basically the recommendation from this report, is that we roll over our unused funds from 2021 into 2022, and that we update our guidelines so that next year we have an earlier application deadline. I'm suggesting in the guidelines to bump it from May 31st to April 30th, and then that gives us an opportunity. If we get multiple applications, we can review them against the criteria and pick the best ones. But if we don't get the program fully subscribed, we can continue to leave the program open so that applicants can continue to apply, and then we would approve them through 2022 on a first come, first served basis, in the hopes that we're able to dispense the remaining $15,000. And so that's basically the gist of what we're proposing for 2022. And I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions? Yes, please go ahead. Director Weed.
I'm curious. I keep, it's been brought up a few times here in Lillooet about the facade development. Money first, and then
You have to go a little closer to the mic.
Oh my
Barb. You're fading out.
goodness. How come you can hear Lori and you can't hear me? I'm shocked. I've never had this issue. Do the businesses have to spend the money first and then get reimbursed, or do they just set out their plan and submit it and get the money?
If I can answer that through the chair. Yes, the businesses do spend the money, and then it's the program acts as a rebate. So they spend the money and then we reimburse them for the 50% match.
I know that some of the businesses that we thought might be interested in from Area B, when actually Lori Reimer and I were trying to promote this program, that both of them, as it turned out, were interested in patios, and that was during COVID, as well as it just being a very good idea in general. And I see that that's been added as an option, which is a great addition. Hopefully not too late for some of our businesses. But yes, did you want to say something further?
I just wanted to thank you for bringing that up, because I neglected to mention that in my report. But yes, that's one of the new changes for 2022, is that permanent and semi-permanent patios will now be eligible for the funding. But that's something that they have to be permanent or semi-permanent. So it's not something that you can just sort of set up and then have it just be temporary stuff. So the money has to be for the actual structures.
Are there other questions on this program? Sal?
No questions. I know the proponent that received the go-ahead for their project, and I presume you're going to be reaching out to them shortly, because I've seen the work there and it's almost complete, if not complete.
Yes, thanks through the chair. I have reached out to the business owner a couple of times, and he hasn't responded by email, so I'll give him a phone call. But like I said, the deadline for him to report isn't till December 31st, so he still has lots of time to get his reporting in. As I encouraged him in the email, the sooner he gets his reporting in, the sooner I can cut him a check for $5,000.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion to move forward with the plan for the business vacate program as outlined in the report.
Sal, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that's that go along with that.
Oh my Lord. I'll move all 6.
Okay. I would like to second that, because I think they're all solid. I'm completely in agreement with all of this and grateful for this report. Yes, is anyone opposed? Hearing none, then the motion carried. And yes, hopefully we'll have some more applicants and some more success with this program.
Yeah, I've had one person reach out already.
Good.
Which is good.
Good. Any other comments or decision? I don't believe that we have any late business. No. And in that case, director's notice of motion. We don't have a director's notice of motion. So item number 10 is for adjournment. And direct Karen Playfair, alternate director Playfair. Thank you. Moved by, seconded by, and I see Kristen Clark has appeared. Would you like to add something? Or no? Okay, good. It's nice to see you. Seconded by Director Demare to adjourn, that the meeting be adjourned. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 13th. We will need to elect a chair and a vice chair at that meeting.